This is 92.5 Phoenix FM, community radio for Dublin 15.
Alright guys, it is Tuesday, you're listening to Wrestleview here in Phoenix 92.5 FM. My name is Darrell O'Connor. Thank you for joining me as always. You're also checking us out on Nerd to Know Media and all of our iTunes feeds there with association with Wrestleview.com. Again, this week we have another clip from Freeland's Wrestling Rewind. To get the full show, go over to Freeland's Wrestling Rewind or the True Penny Show. So guys, enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of the Freeland Wrestling Rewind. My name is Mike Freland, and I am going to be joined this week by my good longtime dear friend, Mr. Darrell O'Connor. Darrell, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, Mike. I'm good. A bit annoyed that I can't get my ticket sorted, but other than that, I'm good to go.
You know what? I've had that same situation before. You want to go to a show. You're excited to go to a show. They tell you where to go to buy your ticket, and then it all turns into a big cluster mess.
Yeah. Particularly support, trying to get support while you're in Ireland dealing with a West Coast company. You're like, this is a nightmare. But you know,
on behalf of the United States, we apologize.
It's okay. It could be worse. Like trying to deal with Irish companies is often far worse. But
well,
we'll
we will definitely do our very best to make sure that customer support makes sure that you get your tickets for your show. What show are you looking to go see?
So if anyone follows me on the Twitter or Instagram or whatever, has probably seen me post about, actually, wrestling fans should know this, has seen me post about the artist known as Poppy, and she actually did the music for NXT TakeOver recently, her song
Nice.
X. And she's super weird, dude. Like, she's a YouTube internet kind of star, basically. But her music is actually really good. And she's like an art project. So the fact that I'm going to be over in San Francisco there, I have to go see her. And, I would kick myself if I didn't get a chance. But, yeah, if any of the fans listening now were interested in what they heard, maybe I'd take over, buy her album and check it out. It's unlike anything else you'll hear.
I'm going to have to go ahead and I'll plug that as well. I'll make sure I throw that up on Twitter as well. Over at mine, which is at MikeFreland. If you are interested in the artist known as Poppy, she will be in San Francisco, and we'll send you a link where you can hopefully purchase tickets to the show.
You can purchase the tickets. You just can't get the tickets.
They'll take your money, they just won't confirm that you have entry to the building.
Yeah.
Why does it sound like WCW? Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
Guys, we have so many things to talk about this week, but we're excited to take you down the road that was the last 7 days in professional wrestling. So many things are going on right now. Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, AEW, what's going on with Brock Lesnar and Batista, and so much more. But, I do want to let you guys all know that the reason why we're even available, the reason why we're able to do this show is because the Freeland Wrestling Rewind is brought to you by The True Penny Show. Catch James Truepenny and his cast of characters as they go through everything that is professional wrestling in Japan. You can catch them anywhere fine podcasts are made available. They are at The True Penny Show on social media, or if you would like to contact the man himself, his name is James Truepenny. You can follow him at Sheriff Lone Star on Twitter. The True Penny Show, the reason why the Freeland Wrestling Rewind is available to you. All right, Dara, so a lot of things been going on. The Royal Rumble happened, NXT TakeOver happened. Obviously, those are in our rearview mirror. We're looking forward to the next installment of what's going to be happening in the WWE. That means Elimination Chambers down the road. But let's kind of start off the program by talking about an individual that it kind of surprises us in a way. But yet, the more you look at the situation, maybe it shouldn't be as surprising that he is feeling the way he is. And I'm referring to Mr. Dean Ambrose. Now, we've recently found out more information about what's going on with Dean and why did he inform WWE that he would not be re-signing a new contract. So, Dara, I'm going to throw it to you first. Let's start the program off with a little Dean Ambrose and what do we know right now about his current situation?
Well, when we were talking last time around, we didn't really know anything about this. This was just a rumor. And to be fair, it was a rumor that had, quite good grounding. But I was still kind of it sounds a bit like the Dirts, you know. And then that's confirmed. You're like, okay, well let's kind of break it down. Dean seems like a very serious dude. You know, apparently he doesn't like the goofy side of things. You know, he's not a fan of it. And the past couple of years, he's kind of been portrayed as a goof. Not only that, apparently the Shield heel turn based on when Roman Reigns was diagnosed with leukemia, he wasn't a fan of that either. So I actually don't blame him. You know, I honestly don't blame the fact that he this happened to him. You know, and he's like, you know what, I kind of want to do something different and maybe go off and, you know, try his hand either in AEW or in Japan or wherever. So I totally get where he's coming from, and I do think it's the fact that when he's kind of done everything, you know, he's Triple Crown champion, he's won every belt you pretty much can in WWE, and there's not really much else left for him there, and if he's not going to be able to do something creatively in the rest of his career, you know, why not move on? Now, do I think he'll be back? Yes. 100%. But I think it'll be like 5 to 10 years.
So you think that he'll definitely resurface in WWE, but it'll probably be quite some time before we do see him back in the universe, correct?
Yes, I do, and it's because no one really leaves the WWE, you know, for long periods of time. Even Punk, mark my words, Punk will be back in about 15 years when the money runs out. But with Dean Ambrose, I just think he's like. Yeah, he'll come back and he'll be like, "Hey guys, one more run, best in the world," and all that fun stuff. You know, Marvel Comics, you know, they can only pay the bills for so long. But
hold on, at that point in time, he might just be the best in the building.
Well, to him, he's still the best in the world, you know. And
that's true. In his own mind, that is correct.
Oh my god! Actually, a friend of mine says, you know, awful friend CM Punk, or awful friends Phil Brooks for what he did with Colt Cabana, but I don't know, I'm not that harsh with CM Punk, but I do think, you know, he'll be back, and at the end of the day, WWE have that ability to just bring whoever they want back. You know, in reality, they can, no matter who they are. And I think, you know, Dean Ambrose, he's still on good terms with, you know, he is legit friends with the lads in the Shield, and, you know, maybe when Roman Reigns gets healthy, they'll do something in about 5 years. But this is this whole situation is very similar to what happened with Christian Cage, actually. For me, that's what it feels like. It feels like Christian Cage, Kurt Angle, where they're like, well, okay, we've done everything here. We know what's ahead of us isn't what we want. So what else can we do? And both those guys had incredible careers in TNA. And that's kind of what we're going to see. That's what it feels like.
Well, I mean, as far as the information that I've heard, it's real similar to what you've heard. He was just kind of tired of the hokey, goofy, comical type of stuff. And recently what he's done, wearing a gas mask, I think that was kind of dumb. I think since he came back from his injury, I feel like things have been even more so over the top.
Yeah.
And I think he was hoping for kind of a fresh start with the new look, the new hairstyle, the facial hair. But it really did not lend itself to being a rebirth of the character itself. It just became kind of another sideshow that Vince McMahon likes to throw out there. And I feel like it's a shame because you're really wasting some really good talent there. But I would agree with you with, you know, in regards to, is he frustrated when the cancer diagnosis came down and the Shield was involved in that? Was that done in good taste? No. I think a lot of people would agree with that. I think it was done in really poor taste. Do I think he's been utilized in the best capacity? I don't. Then again, I don't feel like a lot of guys in WWE are used in the best way possible. But he has won major championships. You said before, he's made a lot of money. And at this stage of his life, if he'd like to go ahead and take a walk and try something new, who's to blame him? You know, who's to blame him from doing that and then maybe one day coming back again? Look at Cody Rhodes. You know, Cody Rhodes was fed up with all the antics that he was being put through. I mean, they made him Stardust. And now He's with the Young Bucks.
Mike, listen.
I don't know. I know you're a fan of that, aren't you?
I like Stardust. I thought it was great.
Okay. See, I don't know. I feel like he was talented enough to be his own guy.
He wasn't,
and to be Cody. And
I don't know, Mike. Look, sorry for interrupting you, but I don't know. Look, I hate Cody Rhodes. I hate Cody Rhodes. I'm like,
tell me how you really feel, Taro.
I don't know why. I just see his face and I'm like, I hate you so much, and I don't even know why. Like, it's not nothing personal. I'm just like, it's like, for me, he's like X-Pac but with a more annoying face, and he has the stupid hair, and I'm like, go away, So anytime I see him, it's just full on go away heat, So at Stardust, I'm like, oh, you're interesting. This is kind of fun, Sorry. I just hate him so much.
Man, the minute I mentioned Stardust, you're like, what? This is bull. Come on.
Stardust is great, man.
I guess the analogy I was trying to make here is that he left. He made a larger name for himself. And then obviously he had the opportunity to come back if he so desired. Obviously he didn't want to. But I think, the old phrase, sometimes you got to go away to be able to come back.
Yeah.
But I think you also have to go away to maybe make your employer realize what they had and now what they don't have, if that makes sense as well.
Well, that's what I was saying to you with Christian Cage and Kurt Angle.
Right.
And it even, go further back to WCW when the Macho Man left. To go to WCW from WWE because he was a commentator then. I think it's a case of these guys are given something and they're like, well, look, I'm able to obviously do more than what I want. Than what I'm being presented here by my current employer. So I'm going to go off and do something else. And I'll never hold that against a wrestler, and I think it is the smart move because he's still fairly young, he still has a good couple of years ahead of him. But,
you're not feeling the lunatic fringe. I feel this is really difficult for you right now, isn't it?
It is. I love the Shield. I'm a proper mark for the Shield. They're sound guys as well. I've actually met them in person, and they're like the coolest dudes ever. But I hate Cody Rhodes. I just hate him so much. He's my new John Cena. Actually, just when it's mentioned, I just see red. I'm like, oh.
Who do you? Okay, hold on a second. We're gonna pause the whole show here. So let's just name the people that you despise, okay? Because I know there's a few.
Okay.
So obviously Cody, yeah. You threw X-Pac in there.
No, X-Pac is all right when he's
okay,
when he's being X-Pac, but he has the X-Pac heat, where it's like go away heat. So
you hate John Cena, okay?
Not the man or the actor, just the wrestler.
The character. Yeah. Let's make sure we qualify this. Yeah, the character.
As a man, he's done a lot of really good things.
Right.
As an actor, I actually quite enjoy John Cena as an actor, but as a wrestler, he's the worst thing to happen to the world since communism. So
since what?
Since communism. So it's.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. So don't think we can go very much deeper than that.
Yeah.
However, who else? Who else grinds your gears, as Peter Griffin would say?
Who grinds my gears? Bubba Ray Dudley. I don't like him as a man or human.
You don't like him as a member of the human race? No. Bubba Ray Dudley, no thank you.
No,
okay. Thank you. Is there a reason why? Is it the...
Oh man, he's just a tool, like a massive a-hole.
Well, so is Scott Steiner.
Oh yeah, but Scott Steiner makes up for in wrestling ability and personality, and that promo from TNA, makes up for everything. It's totally fine.
Where he does the math.
Yes, that's incredible. Actually, funny story, true story. After that promo ends, when it cuts back to the crowd, you can see me standing there with a puzzled look on my face, going, "What the hell?"
You got it. We got to find you. We got to freeze frame that. Yeah, that is classic.
But what's funny about like random Impact episodes until they went to HD from about 2000, from the end of 2007 to until they went HD, myself and my dad randomly pop up in episodes of Impact. Because what they do, I was there for like a rake of tapings, and the reason why is because they just reuse crowd footage over and over again. So I remember I copped this because I was watching one time like a year later. And my dad just shows up on Impact, and I'm like, what? It's like, what? We haven't been there in ages. So yeah, we just randomly show up, but there's a big block of tapings that I'm just in, and that's one of them. So, fun fact.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's kind of like my rundown of hated performers. You know, there's very few people who I hate in the wrestling industry, but yeah, they're the top of it. Oh, and Bobby Lashley. Feck Bobby Lashley.
Hold on a second. So as far as Bobby Lashley goes, do you hate him, or are you just more frustrated and annoyed by him?
It's not. Look, it's only because, you know, when I see him, all he's thinking about was golf.
Right.
And I'm like, I do not want to watch someone who's not here mentally. It's like, just do your job. You know, it's like when you know, you go to a shop and there's a clerk there and they're on their phone. It's like, I just want to get out of here. Here's the money, you know. Bobby Lashley's like that, but a wrestler. He's just thinking, you know, he's the equivalent of a 15-year-old girl going, oh, okay, you know. That's Bobby Lashley, but he's thinking about golf.
Wasn't there a golf character at one point in time? I'm trying to remember. Didn't Chavo Guerrero?
Yeah, Kieran White.
Oh my
was
God,
the
that's
character.
so bad. That's so bad. That would not go over in 2019 at all.
That's up there with beaver cleavage.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was it Thrash or Mosh from
I think it was
the Headbangers?
It was Mosh.
Mosh.
Yeah.
Beaver cleavage. Wow. That's
We're going deep
else.
with the lore today, guys. Deep with the lore.
We are. We very much are. But bringing it back here, full circle here to Dean Ambrose. So, are you thinking that he? Okay, let me phrase it this way. Where would you think that he would most likely end up?
I think he'll do the circuit. Obviously, he will go to AEW. I think that just makes sense.
Okay.
I can see him maybe do a run in Impact Wrestling, actually.
Well, that was my next question. Do you think that there's a shot at Impact Wrestling?
There's always a shot. You know, they're not the same company as they were. And it would be silly for me to rule that out. Silly for anyone to rule it out. But AEW is obviously the more sexy option. But
Right.
if Impact are like, here, look, we have this cool idea. Here's a wheelbarrow full of cash. They're going to... Yeah, I think he'd give it a shot, you know. But AEW is probably more realistic.
So you would say more AEW than even New Japan?
As I said, I honestly feel if you're putting a gun to my head and say decide, I can see him do the circuit. So popping up on New Japan, popping up in Ring of Honor, and then circling back around either for a longer stint of Impact Wrestling or AEW. That's what I foresee myself.
So I guess my thought would be, where would I think that we would see him? I think there's a couple different places, but I think one place definitely. I think MLW would definitely be a place that
Good
would.
shout.
What's that?
Good shout.
I think it would be. I think Court Bauer is definitely making a lot of changes, and he's changing the way that the wrestling product is being presented to the audience. And he's even gone on Twitter and said, you know, listen, we're going to give an alternative to what you are currently viewing when it comes to this industry. So I would not be surprised whatsoever. They got a great roster there right now. It would not hurt to obviously beef it up with some people, do a little shock value right there as far as getting maybe some names that you wouldn't think that would appear there. But I think that he definitely would have a shot at MLW. I think that would be a big one. I think Ring of Honor would definitely be a big one. I think with the Bucks and Cody, you know, not being a part of Ring of Honor, I think they may be wanting to try to fill that void a little bit. It wouldn't hurt to go ahead and sign somebody like that as well. So I think MLW, I think Ring of Honor definitely would be my 1 and 2. My third one would be probably AEW. My fourth one would probably be New Japan. And unfortunately, at the bottom of the barrel would be Impact Wrestling, formerly known as TNA. So, but I think he's definitely got a lot to offer. He's a talented performer. He's got decent mic skills. I think he's been, you know, really criticized about his mic skills, but I think he is good. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens here.
He's good when he's given the right material, you know, and they really kind of cut, you know, what's off when recently, and that's half the problem. You know, like if you take away what Dean Ambrose is as a performer, you're going to have a bad time, you know, and that's kind of what happened. They're like, oh, Dean Ambrose is so boring now. It's like, yeah, because you didn't make him Dean Ambrose. You made him something else. You know, it's like, that's half the problem. And I don't think WWE in their wisdom decided that this was the best course of action. Even the fact that everyone was like, no, it's a bad idea, but they did it anyway. It's a lesser extent what they did with Punk, but the difference is, you know, I don't think Dean Ambrose is going to be an idiot and try to fight for real, you know.
Well, let's actually do this. I think this would be a lot of fun for an episode. Let's try to find out if we can, if it's possible. It may not be. Who are the creative writers for WWE? Let's find them, their names, and then we'll spend an episode and we'll go down their credentials and kind of go over the things that they've worked on.
Guys, and here's the thing. If we do that, Mike, guys, you can't at them. You can at us, but you can't at the writers.
I agree.
Yeah.
Please keep all of your comments directed towards us. This is an expose, because let's think about this, Dara. When we talk about how frustrated we are with the characters and the directions that they go in, you know, I think a big thing is, well, who is putting the words in their mouth? And let's find out who those people are. Because I think a lot of people look at it and they automatically say Vince, because he's the guy who has, you know, he has the power over the main roster. But let's find out who exactly is working behind the scenes. So I think that would be very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And the thing about it is, I don't know if you've ever listened to the, what's it called? This Is Wrestling podcast, or We Want Wrestling podcast.
I have not had a chance, but I've heard good things.
Yeah, you know, and Dave Lagana was a writer for ECW and SmackDown a couple of years ago, and he kind of explained what actually happened. So I would say, you know, when we do that show, listen to maybe Dave Lagana, you know, because it's not their fault as such. You know, like there's times where they would write something and then Vince would come in and change it straight away. And it's like, okay, you know, and we've heard how many times we've heard that before, where like WrestleMania has changed on a dime. Apparently, going back to Dean Ambrose, the decision to turn on Roman Reigns was that day. So it's like, you know, how can you write to something like that? Imagine going in and doing your job and being like, all right, well, all of that stuff we had, we're going to throw it out and go from scratch. And you're like, what? You know, no other business works like that. WWE exclusively does this.
And that can be frustrating too when you're trying to do your job and then your boss pulls the rug underneath you, you know, and it's kind of like, well, what happened here? Like, what's the point of me putting all this work in if you're going to have this big figurehead just decide on a dime, I'm just going to go ahead and change everything. So I think it's going to be really interesting to look at these people, look at who they are, find out what their experiences are, and then obviously, like you said before, find out exactly what the dynamics are backstage and find out if it is a situation where they're pitching these ideas, but yet it's always being altered or changed maybe at the 12th hour because someone doesn't like it.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's probably the best way to look at it.
Well, another thing I think would be very, very interesting to look at is the big news of AEW. Now, we talked about AEW, obviously, when we were referring to Dean Ambrose as maybe a potential landing spot for the superstar, but there's a lot of other things going on with AEW. They also had another press conference, pep rally. I'm not really quite sure what we want to call it these days because they had one and now this is their second one. But they went ahead and they made some other major announcements. Now, just to kind of give you the cliff notes of that, they were mentioning and they had several different wrestlers come out who they have agreed to contracts with. And the two most high-profiled ones were Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega. Yep, that same Kenny Omega that everyone thought may go to WWE or he may go somewhere else. Unfortunately, for all of those fans who are wishing to see him maybe show up at a WrestleMania, namely myself, he will not be. He is officially under contract with AEW. Dara, let me ask you this question. From the names that have been released that are now officially with AEW, does any of them surprise you? And did the announcement of Kenny Omega really surprise you? Or did you think, nah, it's kind of a foregone conclusion. He's staying with his crew.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much a done deal. You know, I don't think... And the books even said it, you know, recently. They're like, "Oh, do you think we're going to do this without our brother?" You know, it makes sense. This is a better version of the Job for the Boys, you know. But I don't think Kenny Omega is silly enough to go to WWE. He knows what's there. He knows what happens. He doesn't have the He doesn't have the ability that AJ Styles has. Some people are screaming, "Don't at me!" Right now, to kind of get over. And even still, look at some of the garbage that AJ has been dealing with in WWE. I feel that he knows that this is going to be a better move for him in the short term. Working with Chris Jericho again, working on these hot angles. So it just kind of makes sense, to be honest with you.
Well, just to let you know, there's been a lot of people who have joined AEW and have signed contracts since this whole explosion, if you will, of All Elite Wrestling has happened. So just to give you kind of an idea of who is going to be on their roster, obviously Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Jericho, Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, Joey Janela. I'm just kind of give you some of the cliff notes of the more well-known individuals. Pentagon Jr., Phoenix, Jimmy Havoc, and then some of the ones that you may or may not be as familiar with. T-Hawk is another one. Jungle Boy is another one. Chuck Taylor, Trent, is it Beretta?
Beretta.
Yep. And then Sammy, wow, I can't even say it. Guarva. So interesting. They got a lot of people here, and obviously they got a really great female roster. They got Brandy Rhodes, Britt Baker, Penelope Ford, Kong, Kylie Ray, and Nyla Rose. So, a lot.
Yeah, there's two things that you can do, right? And you can either try to be like the WWE, which, for the record, do not try to be like the WWE. That's a bad idea. Or you can try to be something different. And these guys know that there's something different. They know they have the atmosphere. And you know what it really feels like, Mike, to be honest with you? And it really, really feels like this, particularly the way it's presented, even the way the screen looks from these press conferences. It feels like WCW in a good way.
Yeah, no, it does. It feels like it's the beginning of something again, and which is very, very exciting.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know when they're going to put their product on as far as television is concerned, but they're definitely going to get a lot of eyeballs. They're definitely going to get a lot of people that are going to take a look at this product. And obviously only time will tell if they are able to garner an audience that is consistent. And, a lot of people will show up for the first couple of episodes, but the big test is the longevity. Is somebody going to want to come out on a continuous basis and support the product and support house shows as well? So, but I think so far everything they've done has been really good. The hype has been really good. I think with the online, the YouTube series being the Elite has done a lot for the product as well. So they're using social media to their advantages right now, and they're doing things that, arguably WWE has the same access to do to get their product out, but I just think some people know how to utilize things a little bit better than others.
Yeah, and I think that's important to emphasize. They're aware of what they have, and they're aware of what they're able to bring to the table. Emphasizing that is super important, and it's something that WWE have kind of lost. They it's easy to say, to bash WWE. We're not. I'm not. I'm just saying that from a youth standpoint, looking ahead, it's a way easier for these guys to kind of connect with their fans than WWE. And it's solely because of the way WWE present themselves. They're a massive corporation that deal with all this kind of stuff, and dealing with their fans is often second. It's not something that they would choose to emphasize. Anyone who's worked in this form of media for a while knows the difference between dealing with the WWE and dealing with literally any other wrestling company in the world. WWE are notoriously difficult to actually deal with, and that's just from my experience of being in the wrestling media for 12 years. Compared to even Impact or any other one,
No, I'm with you completely. I think that, do you think it's a generational thing as well? And what I mean by that is, I feel like in a lot of ways, as much as WWE attempts to be and positions themselves to be this, new wave of thinking, this new generation, no pun intended, forward-thinking organization. I still feel like in a lot of ways backstage it doesn't really follow that perception. And I feel like other companies are starting to recognize that. And they're starting to realize that, for as much as the WWE wants to tout themselves as being a forward-thinking company and taking themselves into the next, 20, 30 years and equality and doing things with women's wrestling, which they claim, Stephanie McMahon, depending on who you talk to, that she created it when it was going on in many, many other places before WWE. But I think that other organizations right now are looking at the WWE model going, yeah, they say they do this, but they don't really follow through. We are going to say we're going to do this, and we are going to follow through. And I think, in my opinion, Dara, that's the big thing right now. It's the delivery. It's the, here's what we promise, and here's what we're going to deliver. And you saw the McMahons in the ring several months ago, and they said, hey, everything's going to change. We're going to give you a better product. We're going to be in charge. We dropped the ball. Can you honestly say you've seen a change in the product for better or for worse since they have made that big, profound statement?
No, it's gotten worse.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
They say it, but they never deliver.
It's because, Mike, you hit the nail on the head. You saw the McMahons in the ring. The minute you see the McMahons in the ring, you're going to have a bad time. We should never see the McMahons in the ring ever again. Because they bring nothing to the table. Honest to God, like when you have a situation where Shane McMahon is winning the greatest, wrestler, in the company, and a couple of weeks later, then he's coming out saying, "Oh, we dropped the ball." That's a company that's out of touch, and I don't think they know they're out of touch, because they. And people are going to be like, oh, but the stock's doing so well and their revenue's up. I'm like, yeah, but their viewerships are down. You can be profitable. Like, WCW was still profitable when it went out of business. Not saying WWE was going to go out of business, but that's not always the way to measure the success of a company. There's been this void for 18 years now.
Everybody 19.
Yeah, everybody looking for a number two. Why? If WWE was so great and doing what we wanted them to do, or even, interesting, that need wouldn't be there. Now, some would say, well, NXT is like that. Yeah, NXT is like that, but you see what happens instantly once they go to the main roster. The ball is dropped, and, guys who you love, guys and girls who you love in that company, it just becomes a tragedy story. Like how many great wrestlers have we seen just poof, gone? Oh, as soon as they go up to the main roster.
Right. No, I mean, I agree with you. And that should be alarming to a lot of people. And I think a lot of people are looking at WWE a lot differently and through a different pair of glasses than they once used to look at it. I mean, no matter what you think of WWE as being the pinnacle, as being the Super Bowl of wrestling, whatever you want to think about, you gotta not just get caught up in the big major pay-per-views and the big moments, but you have to look at it from a day-to-day grind when the lights aren't as bright, when they are traveling and doing, oh my God, over 300 and some odd shows a year, and they're working through injuries and how the company may or may not be the greatest when it comes to being supportive. It makes you really question, why is it that people are sacrificing themselves to the degree that they are to try to impress who? Because the wrestling industry right now is so wide open. And I've often said that I think we'll get back to the territories. You said more so on a global territorial level, which I would agree with even more.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they have that capture rate that they once used to have. And I think that a lot of people are seeing that, and they're seeing that there's a lot of money that can be made elsewhere. But like we're going to get into with people like Kenny Omega and or even Dean Ambrose, from a creative perspective, if you love wrestling and you don't want to be dictated to every second of the day and have these silly ideas thrown out to you, there's somewhere else to go.
But here's
and these guys are going to go somewhere else.
That's it, Mike. There for the longest time, we've heard that the more wrestling there is, the better for the business, and it's because of stuff like this. Like, look, the Attitude Era was silly, very silly. There were some really stupid things in the Attitude Era, but the difference was everyone was able to be featured in their own way. It wasn't just, well, this is the end of that, or it's this or nothing. And that, for the longest time in WWE, hasn't been a thing. It's kind of like, well, if you're given this, you better do it, or else there's no other way. And I know some people were saying, well, what about TNA? Yeah, well, look, TNA is TNA. It's always going to be TNA. Even the fact that I'm still calling it TNA when it hasn't been TNA for about 4 years proves that point. But what I mean to say is, there really wasn't somewhere else to go. It was just either that, or you might get lucky with a big contract. And now it feels like there is more of a scope. There is more of an ability to go, well, maybe I can go somewhere else. And look, that's always a good thing. It seems like AEW, they have the money. They have, more importantly than the money, they have the actual know-how that they actually know what they're doing. TNA, I hate to go back to them again, but they had money and they just threw it all away because nobody had a clue what they were doing.
Well, and once again, money doesn't necessarily, equal success, because like you said, we've seen companies that have had money, and once again, kind of like AEW, it's great to have it. It's great to have the financial backing, but if you don't know what you're doing with the money, then there's no point.
You're throwing it away.
There's no direction.
Yeah, there's no vision. And that's the difference. There was no, in the beginning of TNA, there was vision. In the beginning of WCW, there was vision. Same with WWE, during its creative periods. Now there's nothing. Now it's just a waste and an absolute mess. And that just seems to be the wrestling world in general, in North America in particular, where instead of these being companies that, you'd look up to and go, okay, great, I know what's coming, I know what I'm watching. You turn on Raw and it's the same, every week. It's boring and, it's not enthused, and there's nothing to get enthusiastic about. When you watch AEW or All In, which is the only thing we have really to compare off it, that had a totally different feel. It felt like a different show. It felt like a different company. It was vibrant, and that's important. There's no vibrancy in wrestling nowadays to the same extent as different time periods, and it's because there's no competition. There's no reason to get better. Like, remember, if it wasn't for ECW, for WCW in the 90s, we still would have been stuck with like the Clown and Joan Gonzalez and probably Hulk Hogan again for a million years. All this kind of stuff from the cartoony era of WWF was only kind of got rid of because it had to. That's what Vince wants. That's what he always pushes. Vince wants what he wants because it's his company. And any of the dumb, can be blamed at Vince to a large degree because, you look at it. What was John Cena? He was Hulk Hogan. There's another one who I hate. I hate Hulk Hogan more than anything. He was just Hulk Hogan again, and I don't mean that in just a literal sense. Like, he is Hulk Hogan again, and it came off that way. So what I'd say is, we will see a clear divide with the wrestlers, where either they are happy enough to just get on and put their hours in and then have a career, or they want to try something new. And that kind of leads into what you were saying with Batista and Brock Lesnar. I don't think Brock Lesnar will actually move. I think this is just a ploy for him to make money. This is like, because is he always going to go back to UFC thing. That's a play just for money. Batista, he might actually. I can see Batista do it just because he's so he's so unpredictable, and he hasn't done it, so they might.
And there's been a lot of rumors that have been floating around right now, because there are several, former wrestlers who, and I hate to use the word former because you're never really former. I mean, you never really retire from the business either. Exactly, but you look at some of these guys who want to get back into the game, and Dave Bautista definitely mentioned that he wanted to get back into it. Now, he was, negotiating and having some conversations with WWE, but then obviously, it's another leverage piece here. Is AEW something that he would want to make a surprise appearance at? And would he make a bigger splash there? I mean, they do definitely have the money to go ahead and throw at him. So you're right. Do I think a Brock Lesnar necessarily would go to an AEW? I don't know. I would probably say no, but what I would say is if it was maybe just for a couple appearances, if he had maybe 5 or 6 appearances scheduled for a year and it was something that he was able to work into his schedule, would he do it? I mean, Brock does it for the love of money, and I think if the money's there, Brock is definitely listening to those offers. So it's interesting. I think those are more of hood ornament signings, not necessarily the engine and all the important parts that are underneath the hood.
Yeah.
But it definitely is going to get people to at least pay attention to it if they're like, whoa, I hear that these guys may be showing up. So it definitely keeps that interest level continuing to build.
The important thing, Mike, is with all these signings, and some people are probably mentioning, going, oh, you're very harsh on all these companies, but all they're doing is signing old guys. You know what? There's a difference between signing, quote, old guys and signing some talent to put over the younger guys. If they start wheeling out, who's someone who's past his prime in the WWE?
Kurt Angle?
Oh, no, not even Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle could actually probably still go, to be fair.
The Undertaker?
Yeah, okay, that's a good one. Or Kane. If they start signing Kane, we'll go, oh, okay, we're gonna give you the belt. Or if they wheel out Hulk Hogan from whatever crypt he's in, and say, oh, we're gonna put the belt on you, then then we have something to really worry about. But there's a difference between doing that and bringing in some established talent like Chris Jericho to go against Kenny Omega. That's cool because look, Jericho's still a great worker, and he has a great mind for the business, even being a backstage figure, which is probably what he's actually really there to do. That's something totally different. What they need to do is they need to find stars they need to kind of do what WWE did. Go through their NXT, find a similar way of doing that. Search your talent out beyond just America. Ireland has a great wrestling scene. UK has an amazing wrestling scene. Same as Scotland being the forefront. Europe has a great wrestling scene. Japan has wrestling. If you're actually going to make a go of this, you need to get some of the best talent around the world. Yes, WWE has already kind of beaten people to this. This is what Triple H has been working on in his own play to make NXT so competitive and so vibrant. So they need to kind of take that and run with it. Find the talent. Sign the talent and build it, because you can't have a wrestling company. TNA proved this. You can't have a wrestling company that's actually competitive with the WWE by trying to be WWE. They want to try and be anything, they need to be NXT. That's a better model. That's a more sustainable model to make. If you can kind of capture that, put your own spin on it, and build up your own stars, well, then you have a wrestling company for life. But the biggest way to lose money is to start a wrestling company. But the difference is they have minds that actually know what they're doing here. It's not Jimmy Hart and Hulk Hogan, making a quick buck.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned how, AEW is trying to go ahead and sign some guys, and how the decision to either wrestle for WWE or AEW or whomever else, it really depends on how much that the promotion is going to appreciate the talent. And I think nowadays, the money is one thing, but the appreciation is something completely different. And I guess what I mean by the appreciation is, what are they going to offer the talent as far as the creative perspective goes? Are you really listening to them when they sit down and negotiate with you? Would you really want to see them work with? Who do they really want to work with? You have to make sure that you fulfill them, at least from a performer's perspective, as well as a monetary perspective on your side. So kind of segueing into this was an interesting comment that I heard from Kenny Omega mention, and he said in his recent negotiations with WWE and New Japan, he says, WWE, they were more excited to have me than New Japan was.
Yeah. So
I wanted to get your thoughts on this one here. Do you feel like it's a situation where maybe New Japan kind of said, oh, we've had Kenny for so long, we've had this relationship, they become very comfortable with each other, and then all of a sudden WWE is that opportunity that they've never truly had since he originally had left, that they really wanted to get him back because they feel like they made a mistake. So what are your thoughts on his comments there, and are you surprised by those?
No. WWE has a track record of signing people to sign people. Just in case someone else can get them. This goes back to the Monday Night Wars thing where they just bring in talent just to have them on the roster. And that's what they do. And they end up just being used. There's reports after reports where we hear guys from on the main roster who are from NXT begging to go back to NXT. How often do we hear that? Weekly. And it's because of stuff like this. They get signed and they're like, okay, cool, and then there's nothing for them. New Japan, I'm not shocked. They Omega kind of done everything you can in New Japan.
Now,
so
before we go ahead and put a bow tie on this episode, something I did want to bring up to everyone here is, as we saw all over different wrestling websites here, the new installment of Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea is going to be taking place January the 20th through the 24th, 2020. Obviously, Jericho also revealed that the All Elite Wrestling will be joining this as well. There's going to be a lot of different superstars. They will be leaving from Miami. They will be going down to the Bahamas as well. It'll be a lot like what they did the last time, but I think it'll be even more exciting this time because it'll be a brand new era when it comes to the Rock and Wrestling Rager, especially with the All In being so successful, AEW being so successful. So if you have not seen that big announcement, you can check out the episode that's titled Sail Away, Man, Being the Elite, episode 124. Any thoughts, any comments on this, or do you think that this is definitely going to be something for the foreseeable future that we're going to see wrestling fans have a chance to join in and be a part of?
Am I banned from this?
I don't. That's a good question. I don't know if making comments about Fozzy definitely prevents you from being on the cruise. I don't think it would.
I don't know.
But then again, who knows? I mean, you could go to the website and try to reserve your cabin, and all of a sudden it says denied. Who knows?
Or show up and there's a picture. It's like, don't let this Twitter handle in.
Well, that's just like me trying to go to a wrestling a Christmas party that has Jim Cornette, and I'm on the guest list. That somebody screwed something up here.
Is he one you're hated, Mike?
Oh, I am loathed by one Jim Cornette, and it's out there for the world to see. I believe James Truepenny actually has the exact transcript of what was said to me, because when I was blocked by Jim Cornette defending Kenny Omega, he went off on me. So You know what? It is what it is. We all see things from different perspectives. Jim has his, I have mine, and that's the beauty of life. We all can see things differently. Let's just keep it clean. At least that's all I have to say. At least that's wrestling related. A millionaire blocking me over making bad comments about his band is a bit petty. But that in itself is a little bit, you got to know that if you're going to be on social media, that you got to have some level of thick skin. Yeah. And that you got to understand people are going to troll you just to see how far they can push your buttons. Well, here's the thing. I didn't even troll them. I was just honestly reviewing a poor album. That's all. Well, I don't mean necessarily you, but I'm just saying people in general will do that. They will just go ahead and they'll find people and they'll just try to make comments. Yeah. I think yours was justified. You were, talking about how you weren't digging it, and they had done a lot of covers as well, hadn't they? Yeah, well, look, Fozzy. I've been a fan of Fozzy, and this is the worst part. I was a fan of Fozzy since the beginning. The first album was like they were pretending to be a. This is actually the lore. So again, guys, we're getting a bit deep in the lore today, but so the lore of Fozzy is that they were a band in the 80s that went off to Japan, and apparently they had loads of songs that sounded similar to like famous metal songs. So the first album were all covers, right? And that's why they showed up on Raw. And, Chris Jericho was pretending not to be Chris Jericho. So then the second album came along and they're like, this is silly. Let's actually just write real songs. So then they started writing real songs, and that's around the time period that they wrote Enemy and a few other tunes. Then they released a couple of other albums and did a bit of touring. So they became a pretty decent band. But when I started reviewing them, I was working for a website called Planet Mosh at that time, and they said, here's the new album for you. I'm like, cool. You're going to go see the show
next month. So I reviewed the album, and then I found out while I was at the gig that I was blocked from their Twitter page. So my friends' bands were the opening band, so I just spent the entire review reviewing them instead of Fozzy.
Wow.
So I was just like, well, I'm blocked. So Chris Jericho wore a sparkly jacket. That was fun. But that was pretty much the review for them. But yeah, man, it's one of the weirdest things ever, because like the review wasn't harsh. It was just like the best song on the track was an ABBA cover, and the review was, if your best thing on your album is an ABBA cover, you should really try harder.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Once again, it's everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I'm sure that they've heard a lot worse than that on social media.
But look, if people are going to the Rock and Wrestling cruise, have a great time. Cruises, I've never been on one. I have friends that have, and look, it's basically a floating hotel, so it's fun. And if it makes money for them, even better.
Well, I think a lot of people are digging it just because it is something that's different. I know WCW did one at one point in time. I know WWF did one at one point in time in the 90s. So it's not a new concept per se, but I think what they're trying to do is a little bit different. So they're bringing different talent in, and music people and comedians, and they're having a wrestling tournament that's actually on the ship as well. So it'll be interesting. It'll be very, very interesting.
For sure.
We have covered so much today, and I do appreciate Dara O'Connor joining us this week. Once again, just to recap, we talked about what's happening with Dean Ambrose and where could he pop up. We talked about all things AEW. Were we surprised that Kenny Omega turned down WWE? What was the big contract offer that the Bucks got from WWE? Dara went ahead and shared that with us. When it comes to big stars, is AEW going to be able to land them? Well, we talked about that. When it comes to Batista and the Beast incarnate Brock Lesnar, might they be appearing in AEW? We're just going to have to wait and find out. So many things, and there's always going to be more. If you'd like to continue this conversation with us online, we'd be more than happy to. You can find me on Twitter. I am at MikeFreland. That's MikeFreland. Dara, if people want to continue this conversation with you, how can they reach out to you?
So, if you guys want to at me, you can at DaraWV. At DARRAGH is my Twitter handle. And if you want to check out my other vast content, go over to nerdtoknowmedia.com, and you can, find everything you want there.
Once again, if you go to a WWE event or even an Impact event and you hold up a Katie Vick scale sign, definitely go ahead, let us know. If you even see it on television, go ahead and screen capture it for us, send it to us. Dara will make sure that we get you a nice partying gift for continuing the legacy that is the Katie Vick scale.
So, Mike, on that, I want to add an addendum, right? So here's the deal, guys. Here's the deal. If you go to a wrestling show and it gets on TV, it can only be for a second. If the Katie Vick sign gets on the TV, I will personally send you a Steam game code. On the list I have like 20 or 30 of them. And you can take your pick and you will get it for absolutely free. The only thing is, it has to be on TV at some point. Katie Vick, it could be, some reference to Katie Vick. It could be the Katie Vick scale, an actual scale. Just it has to be on there, and just you can either attach that to myself or Mike's Twitter, or the True Penny Show Twitter or whatever. Just once we find out about it, we'll get in touch.
We will be in contact with you because we want to make sure that the Katie Vick scale continues to live on.
It needs to be a worldwide phenomenon, Mike.
It is. It's fantastic. I love it. I absolutely love it. And speaking of things that I love, we just talked about it. The True Penny Show. If you're loving everything we're doing here on The Rewind, definitely go ahead and check out James True Penny and his cast of Wrestling Minds as they talk about all things that happen in Japan. The True Penny Show, you can find them anywhere fine podcasts are made available. That's basically anywhere. If you'd like to go ahead and interact with them on social media, you can find them at The True Penny Show, which is going to be on Twitter. And if you'd like to contact the man himself, Mr. James Truepenny, you can find him at Sheriff Lone Star. The Truepenny Show, the reason why the Freland Rewind is available to you. All right, dear. Any final parting comments before we say goodbye to everybody this week?
So, wrapping up bringing it back to how we started off the show, Mike. It turns out that AXS support have got back to me and have finally sent me out my e-ticket. So,
nice. So you are all set for your Poppy concert.
Yes, it's going to be awesome. And for anyone who's familiar with it knows how weird and awesome that's going to be. So, I'm excited. And if anyone's in San Francisco and going to the Poppy concert, pun intended, pop by and say hey, because I'll be there. I'll be the Irish guy with long hair and glasses. So,
can they bring a Katie Vick sign to the Poppy concert?
Oh, do actually. If they bring a Katie Vick sign to the concert, they'll get 2 Steam games.
Oh, that's fantastic. You know what? I was really excited about this Poppy concert, but then I realized when I was looking up online, you're not talking about Poppy from Trolls.
No.
So, yeah, I'm going to be out on this one. I'm a big Trolls mark. But for everyone who likes the real artist, not the fake cartoon version, I'm very juvenile, definitely check out. Tickets should be available anywhere where tickets are made available to you. She will be in San Francisco. What are the date of that show?
The 24th. So basically I'm going to fly into San Francisco and I have 4 hours to get from the airport to the venue. So there's no excuse, guys, if you're in San Francisco. Go to the show.
You need to vlog this, or you need to do some videos or something like that and post that on social media so we can follow you during your voyage to the Poppy concert. I myself would love that.
That's not a bad idea.
Just something to keep in mind. And if you see anybody that has like a Poppy from Trolls, please get a picture of them at the concert and send it to me. You can @ me with that because I'm a huge Troll fan. Yeah, I'm almost 40 years old, but you know what? I still love me some Trolls. All right. I promise I'm done. I've creeped out enough people for 1 week. For my amazing esteemed colleague, Mr. Darragh O'Connor, my name is Mike Freland. Thank you so much for listening to the Freland Wrestling Rewind. We'll catch you next week.
Okay, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of Wrestleview here on Phoenix 92.5 FM, Wrestleview.com, and nerdtoknowmedia.com here on Wrestleview.